And hello everyone, welcome back to the Decap. Now today we have something a little bit different. Instead of a basketball type video, we have a college football video. And throughout the 14 weeks of the season, I chose one game and it's like a road trip fashion. I'm gonna travel around, starting in the West Coast, ending up in the East Coast, and obviously I won't be able to do this because of Corona, but this is just like a hypothetical if I could do a road trip. Now, some rules before I start: I can only be in a state one time, so like say I go to California, I can't return to California for another game. I can only see a team play 2 times, and I have to stay in mostly the same general direction. I can go back a little bit, but I can't go from New York to Texas to Maine. That's just not really a road trip. That's not really productive towards the goal. But let's get right into it. Starting with week 1, we have New Mexico State at UCLA. This game will be played on Saturday, August 29th. And it isn't the best game. New Mexico State obviously isn't Power 5, so they don't have the best football team. UCLA doesn't have the best football team. But the 2 reasons I really wanted to see this game is it's opening day, Saturday, August 29th, opening day of college football, so that's always exciting to witness some of the first football of the season. Also, this game is played in the Rose Bowl Stadium, which is just a historic stadium. It's beautiful in California, great weather, it'll be a beautiful event, and it might not be the best football, but it'll just be an exciting environment, exciting way to start off the football season. Now, week 2, we have a great game, Ohio State at Oregon. Now, this game is Saturday, September 12th, and these teams are both top 10 teams. I think in ESPN's too early prediction, or too early top 25 maybe. They're at least top 15. Obviously, Oregon is losing Justin Herbert, but they have a good defense, good receiving core, decent running back. It'll just be a great matchup. It'll be a great early test for Ohio State. We'll be able to see, can they repeat what they did last year, make the college football playoff, and maybe finally they can win that college football playoff championship behind Ryan Day and the great team that they have. And also, see if the Pac-12 is gonna have a good year, or is it gonna be another down year? Pac-12 hasn't been very good at football the past couple seasons. But if Oregon wins this game, then the Pac-12 will be definitely one of the top conferences in college football, but it'll be a great game, and that's why I want to see it. Now, week 3, we have a Big Ten game, Iowa at Minnesota. Now, these are 2 competitive Big Ten teams. Minnesota obviously had a great year last year, outplayed expectations. Iowa is always just a great physical team. They're always in the contention for the Big Ten West, and Minnesota will be in contention for the Big Ten West this year, and this could be It could possibly be an early Big Ten championship for the West. Obviously, it could be, these 2 teams could very well be in fighting for the Big Ten West championship, which they probably will be, obviously, to go to the Big Ten championship. But it's always Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, usually the top 3 in the Big Ten West. Well, Minnesota isn't, but Minnesota was great last year, so we're expecting them to do the same. And I just feel like this will be a great game, 2 competitive teams, and I just really want to see this game. And after 3 weeks, a little update on the road trip. We go California up to Oregon, to the right, a good deal to Minnesota. Now, we're pretty much going in the same direction. We're pretty much halfway across the country, I'd say, but obviously the eastern side of the country has better football games, especially with the South and East. But let's move on to week 4, where we have Cincinnati at Nebraska. Now, I gotta tell you, this isn't a great game. It's kind of a filler. We needed to get to better games. You kind of have to take a bad game here and there. These teams aren't the best, but I feel like it could be a fun matchup. It'll be a good test for Cincinnati as they play a Power 5 opponent. It'll see if they can maybe make the New Year's Six Bowls, as they are aspiring to do that, as every year they're one of the best non-Power 5 teams. It won't be the best game, but it could be a fun matchup between 2 teams that really want to be great, but just really can't be. because their location and just they're not really big name schools, but it could be a fun net matchup. But let's quickly move on to week 5, where we have a Big 12 game, Baylor at Oklahoma. Now, this will be a great game with lots of offense, not much defense. Baylor has had some good defense in the past. Oklahoma, not much, just great quarterbacks. But these two teams are good Pac-12 schools. I think Baylor's maybe 20 in ESPN's top 25, and Oklahoma's top 15. Now, Lincoln Riley, a great coach. We'll see what he can do with his new quarterbacks, as he always gets the top-tier performance out of them, no matter who they are. And I just feel like this will be a great game. We can't really miss it, as it's just that good of a game. A lot of offense. Will be a fun game. Now, moving on to week 6, we have Alabama at Arkansas. Now, as you can see on the screen, there's one reason I want to go to see this game, and that is to see Alabama play. Now, it might not be the best game. Alabama might crush Arkansas, blow them out of the water, but I just think seeing Alabama play is worth a stop, worth a skip in the schedule, just to see Nick Saban, to see what he can do with all his players. And we will be seeing a great Alabama game in the future, so this will be like, we'll see how good they are leading up to the future game. That is week 6, Alabama at Arkansas. Now, another checkup on the road trip. As you can see, we went down from Minnesota to Nebraska and to Oklahoma, but then we continued going to the right into Arkansas, and we are right on track to get to the Northeast by week 14. And let's move on to week 7, with Georgia at Missouri. And once again, it's not really the greatest matchup, but we are going to see a better Georgia game down the future. So again, we'll be seeing really what Georgia has. And it very much could be a good game, as Missouri is in the SEC, and all SEC teams aren't terrible at football. They have a football team, and it's not great, but it's competitive. So they could keep this game competitive. And I think it very much could be close, as Georgia, if their offense doesn't get going, like last season and seasons before, some weeks they just don't get going, this could be very close. But this could be a good game, and that's why I wanted to see it. Now, week 8, we have Michigan State at Indiana. Yes, I wanted to see Michigan State play. Don't be too mad. But this could be a good game. It's two decent Big Ten teams, and that's always a fun matchup. The Big Ten, a physical conference. Every game there in the Big Ten is good, and I get to see Michigan State play, and I think they will win this game, as they won last year. And they did lose Brian Lewerke, but I wasn't a huge Brian Lewerke fan. But I think Michigan State can definitely win this game behind their defense, and I think it could just be a fun game, as Indiana is good at offense, Michigan State good at defense. We'll see if the better defense beats the better offense, or if the better offense beats the better defense. Now, moving on to week 9 quickly, we have Florida at Georgia. As I mentioned before, we were having a better Georgia game on the schedule, and this is it, kind of quick. But Georgia-Florida, this will be a great game. Every year, these two, Florida and Georgia, are great SEC teams. They're always fighting for the SEC championship. Now, Florida hasn't won it recently. Obviously, they really haven't been able to beat Alabama much, but this will be a great game, great defenses, and just, as I said, they're just great teams, and I think this will be a very fun environment, and I wouldn't want to miss this game. Now, another check on the schedule. We continue going to the right, to Missouri, and then Indiana, and then back down a little bit to Georgia, and we are continuing right on track to get to New York in the Northeast. We're going almost straight there, and we definitely will be able to get there. Now, week 10, we have a great game. As I mentioned before, we had a great Alabama game coming up, another SEC game, Alabama at LSU. Now, these teams are great SEC teams every year. They're fighting, maybe not LSU in the past 10 years, but last year, as we all know, they won the SEC championship and the national championship behind Joe Burrow. Obviously, they lost Joe Burrow, but the new offense with LSU, Ed Orgeron, seems to be working well, and I think LSU definitely could win this game, or Alabama can, as they have the best coach in college football pretty much, I would say everyone agrees with that, and Nick Saban. And every year, this game is classic, whether it's 10-7 or 49-47. I think this game will be in the 30s. I think this will be more high scoring. I don't think there'll be as much defense as there has been in the past, but just a great game that I could not miss between Alabama and LSU. And on a road trip, I think you need to find a way to visit this game, even if it takes us a little bit out of the way, as it does on my road trip. But still, I just could not miss this game. Now, going on to Week 11, we have Missouri at Florida. We already saw Missouri. We already saw Florida. But I'm going to be honest. I didn't go for the football game. We've had a lot of traveling in the past couple weeks since August 29th. It's already November 14th, and we've constantly been on the road. And it's getting pretty cold. Some places, like in Indiana, it was pretty cold. But now we get to just relax in Florida, sit on the beach, get to see a football game between two SEC schools. Could be a good game. Might not be, but I don't care. I get to relax on the beach, and that's all I'm going to Florida for. And I mean that's enough for Week 11. We get to relax on the beach. We get to see a decent football game. And let's move on to Week 12 with LSU at Auburn. Now, the SEC is getting a little bit heavy, but I could not miss LSU Auburn. Two great teams, always competing for the SEC championship. And I just think Auburn could be good. LSU obviously will be good. And I cannot miss this game. I cannot miss Florida, Georgia. I could not miss Alabama, LSU. And I cannot miss LSU, Auburn. I had to go to Auburn to see this game in two competitive football schools. It's going to be a great game. After the relax in Florida, we go right into a tension-filled football game to see LSU at Auburn. This will be a great matchup, and I'm excited to see who wins this one. Now, a checkup on the road trip. These past three games, we got a little bit off track. Obviously, we went to LSU and then Florida to relax in the sun, but we didn't go too far either way. We stayed kind of close to the Northeast, and we'll be making some miles up with the next few games. Moving into Week 13, where we have the classic Michigan at Ohio State on Saturday, November 28th. Now, this is the classic Big Ten game, Michigan-Ohio State. Can Nick Saban, what? No. Can Jim Harbaugh, can Michigan finally do it? I don't know. I don't like Michigan. As you know, I'm a Michigan State fan. I think Ohio State will win once again. Just Michigan is not good enough to beat Ohio State. But maybe they can. And just, I can't really miss this game. It's always a great game. It went into overtime, I want to say 2 years ago. Maybe not 2 years. Maybe 3. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But this will just be a great game. I cannot miss it. Like Alabama, LSU, this is just a classic football. When you think college football, you think Alabama, Auburn, Alabama, LSU, Michigan, Ohio State. And obviously, we get to go to two of those three games. And I'm happy with that. And with this one, Week 13, Michigan, Ohio State, I definitely didn't want to miss this one. Now, Week 14, Navy at Army. The only game on the schedule, but I'm excited to go to this one. The military rivalry, Army-Navy. It's just a fun and competitive football game, a great way to end the season and leading up to the Bowls. And I did not want to miss this one, even if it meant traveling longer. And obviously, this will complete our road trip in New York. In the final road trip, it's looking like this. We go to Ohio State, and then we curl around to New York. And I say we got to the Northeast pretty well. And when we went to LSU, it got a little bit confusing, but we ended up going to Ohio and then New York, and definitely went from California to the Northeast. I'd say this football trip was a success. And now, after the road trip, I'll say a couple stats. We went to 14 games. We saw 22 teams play, 8 conferences, 14 states, in 105 days. Now, we went New Mexico State at UCLA, Ohio State at Oregon, Iowa at Minnesota, Cincinnati at Nebraska, Baylor at Oklahoma, Alabama at Arkansas, Georgia at Missouri, Michigan State at Indiana, Florida at Georgia, Alabama at LSU, Missouri at Florida, LSU at Auburn, Michigan at Ohio State, and Navy at Army. Now, my prediction for best game, Alabama at LSU. You could have probably predicted that. The worst game, Alabama, Arkansas, I think that's going to be a blowout. The best moment, I think, will be Michigan, Ohio State. I think it definitely could go into overtime. Ohio State winning once again is my prediction. And I think the biggest upset could be Georgia at Missouri. As I hinted before, I think Georgia offense could just shut off like it has in the past, and Missouri finds a way to pull off the upset. And I think this road trip was a big success. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you keep watching more, and peace.